Hi, I'm Brandon Wilson, and in this video I'm going to share with you 3 tips to help you shoot your first interview. Let's go. I remember the first interview I got hired for, and looking back, I had no clue of what I was even doing. Even though I had all the right equipment, that still isn't going to be enough to properly execute a successful interview. There's a lot more to shooting an interview than just showing up with good gear, setting up, and pressing record. I walked away from that shoot with a passable video. However, I had to use a lot of B-roll over the top because the interviewee looked so nervous. That leads me to tip number 1, be personable. I've seen so many times and job shadowed enough people that had the personality of a tree stump when trying to interview somebody. Having a cold I'm a filmmaker attitude when showing up on set will translate to a cold and nervous interview. Ask the interviewee questions about the subject while setting up your equipment. This will 1, get the subject fresh in their head, and 2, make them more comfortable with you when talking on camera. Just be friendly from the start. Even though they more than likely won't be perfect, I promise you'll get a better result than if you show up with a cold and distant attitude. Speaking of distant, that brings me to point number 2, depth of field. I'm sure like myself, you've heard this term so many times, or maybe you haven't heard it at all. In any case, depth of field will keep the shot looking interesting if done properly. You'll have a good blurry background and the subject will pop off of it. Some situations you won't have that much room to work with, but with proper lighting you can create depth. Take this interview for example. It was shot in a barber shop. There was a cool scene, but not a lot of depth of field. The chair and the wall were too close in color tone to give the separation. I used an RGB light, and with the color red, I bounced it against the wall to give separation from the subject and the wall. And with that, I created my own depth where there wasn't any. The last and final tip I'm going to be is your placement while doing the interview. Most interviews I've done, even if being hired by an outside marketing firm, I find myself being the one to ask the questions. Position yourself directly behind the camera, especially if the goal is to have them answering the questions while looking directly into the camera. Try to have your eye level right over the top of the camera and directly behind it. This way, even if they're looking at you, it can give the appearance they're looking directly into the camera. So to summarize, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show up on set, we're going to have a good personality, we're going to be friendly, we're going to ask the questions while setting up our equipment. Second thing we're going to do is create depth of field. We're going to look around, we're going to find an interesting shot, and then we're going to place the subject in it. And the last and final tip is going to be sitting directly behind the camera with your eye level just above the camera. This way it gives the appearance that they're looking into the lens even if they're looking directly at you. I've been Brandon Wilson. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.